Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I am your host, Jerron Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today we are going to be concluding Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune, with none other than the movie Legend of Crimson, based on the heroes of the Morphing Grid series. As we now approach the end of yet another series on the channel, I know a lot of you are going to be asking, what am I going to do about Season 3? Yes, it was recently confirmed that Konosuba Season 3 is in the works and is going to be coming out in the near future, along with the spin-off for the Megumi series as well. Well, after the crossover event, there are some series that will get a continuation and others that won't. As you know, Fire Force Season 3 is also going to be coming out in the near future. So, does that mean that Lightspeed Rescue will be getting a continuation? Maybe. If enough of you guys want it, then yes, I will do continuations for the series in the future. Same with this one. But it's really just a matter of if you guys actually want it or not. There are some series that you guys have asked me to continue, and I continue them, only to see that all of the people who ended up asking me to continue that series didn't really seem that invested when I did so. Again, not that I'm angry about it or anything like that. I know that there are some small pockets of you that really do enjoy the stories that I make, and I enjoy making them for you guys. But it's just that when I'm trying to prioritize the stories that everyone wants to see, I usually don't want to create or keep a series going if not enough people are going to be invested. I already have a few of those on my channel right now, and honestly, I would say I'm just trying to get through them, mainly because I don't want to try to keep this thing going any longer than it needs to go. So, if you guys really want me to continue Konosuba with Season 3, even after the crossover event, then I'll do it, if enough of you guys want that. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Kazuma was angry. But honestly, that's nothing new. If you had the type of partners that Kazuma had, you would be also. He sat with Aqua, Megumi, and Darkness. They were sitting in the guild after yet another adventure. Megumi was sitting with anticipation, hoping she'd get the verdict on her final score. Kazuma looked at her dead-eyed, and he said, "You get a 0. Megumi was angered by this. She knew that her explosion was worth more than a 0. However, Kazuma slammed his fist on the table, stating that he was giving her a 0, and honestly, he was being generous. Megumi, well, let's just explain what happened during the mission. You see, they had gone to an area where monsters were attacking these wild tuna. And the idea was that if they killed all the monsters, then that would mean that the tuna wouldn't be eaten, and that would be more food for the various villages. However, Megumi's explosion was a bit too strong, and she basically ended up almost causing the tuna to go extinct. In fact, they probably were going to go extinct at this rate. So, unless they could find a way to fix it, that meant no more fresh tuna for anyone. Honestly, it had been almost a year. It had been almost a year since they had gotten their ranger powers, now finding themselves on the hit list for the Devil King Mordecon, a guy that they hadn't even seen yet. I mean, if they're supposed to be such a big threat, why the heck isn't he sending his full forces after them? I mean, he doesn't really seem like much of a Devil King, but honestly that's neither here nor there. The main problem was that out of everyone, Megumin was the only one that hadn't improved in her skills at all. Not in terms of fighting or in terms of combat, but in magic ability. She didn't know any other spells to save her life. The only one she used was freaking Explosion. And to make matters worse, her ranger powers basically allowed her to fire off multiple explosions a day now. It only fed into her sick, twisted fetish, the way that she would always grab hold of her magic staff before trying to use an explosion. Kazuma wasn't surrounded by heroes, he was surrounded by twisted fiends and pervs. Although honestly, he had no right to talk, as all of the women in the guild yelled in unison that he was nothing but scumzuma. And honestly, you can't really blame these ladies, as Kazuma had a pretty bad habit of using that spell skill known as steal. And it was supposed to steal things at random, but there was nothing random about what Kazuma stole. He stole panties. Lots of panties. More panties than he knew what to do with. Honestly, he stole enough panties to freaking rival the army of the Devil King. Oh, God, that's not that kind of story, people. I promise. Well, there was the one saving grace of their team, that being Yun. She was efficient, perfect in every way. Honestly, Kazuma, he wished that she was just a little more confident. This wasn't how his life was supposed to be. He was supposed to be on the middle of having a kick-ass adventure. This was supposed to be his popular phase. Where's his girlfriend that he's supposed to settle down with when this is all said and done? Come on, he wants some fun, some adventure, something. Well, he wouldn't have to wait long. As the doors opened wide and Yun, who had gone to visit her family, had now returned. She looked as though she were in a bit of a unnerved state, holding onto a letter. Something was bothering her, but no one knew what it was. Yun approached everyone before looking at Kazuma, shyly asking one question: if he would have her baby. Kazuma simply smiled with satisfaction. His popular phase had now begun. They all made their way back to their home, the mansion. While there, Megumin would read through the letter that Yun had gotten from her father. Something about how, by the time they read this, the whole village would be destroyed, and how Yun was going to be this one that would give birth to the child who would one day defeat the Devil King Mordecai. But then that begged the question, why did she think it was Kazuma? Of course, in the letter, it said that the father would be someone who was average in every way, shape, and form. Someone not too appealing in all form or aspects. To be honest, Kazuma felt a bit insulted by this. He was the Green Ranger, for crying out loud. There wasn't anything average about him. Of course, there was that one incident, but we don't talk about that one incident. No, we do not. All the same, Kazuma was ready to do his part. Of course, in these type of situations, everyone would be ready to do their part. Kazuma already has pants down and he was ready to go, although the others were very much against this, Megumin especially, as she didn't want her friend to get involved with someone like Kazuma, although there might be other factors that weren't being stated here. Of course, Kazuma was left disappointed and blue-balled as Aqua came over and pulled his pants back up. It was then realized that the letter was actually just a fable story, but the part about the Devil King's forces attacking, oh no, that part was true. Meaning that there was a situation going on with the Crimson Demons and they needed to make their way back to that village as quickly as they could. But at the same time, they couldn't afford to leave the city unprotected. Even if it was unassuming, someone had to watch after it. They went over to Wiz's shop to ask if she could help in any way. Wiz explained that she and Vanir could watch after the town while they were gone, doing whatever they needed to do. After all, they were rangers, so protecting the world was kind of in the job description. With that, Wiz would use a teleportation spell, getting them out of there as quickly as possible. Very quickly, as Aqua and Vanir were about to get into another fight, and no one needed to see that. They found themselves appearing in a random field. Kazuma and the others had no idea what had happened, although they heard something coming in the distance, like footsteps trembling the very ground. Kazuma and the 5 Rangers would all morph together at the same time, standing guard, preparing for whatever was about to come their way. Although what was coming their way was something that Kazuma did not want. It was a horde of female orcs, and they sensed the presence of a man, a strong man, a nice, strapping young man. When Kazuma realized they were after him, his battle instincts and prowess, well, as little as they were, they all went out the window because he didn't want any of that. He found himself running for his life, the Green Ranger of all people, the one person who wasn't supposed to be afraid of anything, yet he was afraid of this. The other Rangers chased after him, trying their best to help Kazuma in any way that they could. Darkness, well, she was hoping that if there were a pack of female orcs, then there would be a pack of male orcs, since whenever they felt the presence of a woman, their lecherous nature would get the better of them, and, they might, want to take her hostage, take her back to their home, and just ravage her in every way, shape, and form. But she would sadly be disappointed when Megumin would explain that all the male orcs died off a long time ago, leaving only the female orcs. Darkness had to make sure she wasn't hearing things. Did they say that there were no more male orcs? Megumin confirmed they were all gone. And just as quickly, Darkness ended up demorphing and rolling back onto the ground. The others were horrified. Darkness was their best chance to save Kazuma, and, well, she was basically out of the action. And in the end, there wasn't but so much that they could do. I mean, Megumin could launch an explosion, but that might end up killing Kazuma in the process. Aqua, well, she didn't really have anything for this occasion. And, well, Kazuma, he was too busy running for his life to do anything at all. For Kazuma, despite having superhuman speed and strength, these female orcs, when they're in heat, they're nothing to play with. And before he knew it, he found himself being body-checked to the ground, being held down from every which angle as the female orcs, well, they were ready to get cooking in the kitchen. And Kazuma, well, he would do just fine. He was more than strong enough to handle the pain. Kazuma, well, he found himself being emotionally scarred and in fear for his life. Honestly, if it wasn't for the saving grace of Yun, well, he would have been eviscerated in more ways than one. Kazuma found himself crying as he ended up bellowing in the laps of Aqua, who calmly patted his head and reassured him that everything was going to be okay. Of course, the main focus now was trying to get to the Crimson Demon's village. However, before they could even get there, they found themselves being attacked by an army of goblins. And, well, Aqua didn't really help matters when she started bad-mouthing the goblins, basically warning them to get lost or suffer the consequences. And honestly, with all the rangers here, they actually stood a pretty good chance of winning, fighting them off. And then out of nowhere, more Crimson Demons arrived, helping them out in fighting off the threat. Of course, they had no idea who these colorful costumed heroes were, although they did like the capes. Everyone demorphed and they saw Yun and Megumin, Yun revealing that they were the Mystic Power Rangers. Of course, the Crimson Demons were in awe of this. They had heard about the legend of the Rangers, but now to actually know that 2 people from their own village had become these legendary heroes, it was more than they could have possibly have imagined. They made their way back to the home of the Crimson Demons, Yun going to visit her family once more, while Megumin and the others went to hers. To say that their family lived below their means was an understatement, to say the least. They eventually made their way to the family home, where they would meet Megumin's family, her mother, her father, as well as her little sister also, who was very quick to tease Megumin as she was sitting on Kazuma's shoulders about how she had somehow snagged herself a man. Kazuma was, well, intimidated, to say the least. Megumin had wrote a lot of letters to her father, a lot of letters that didn't paint him in the best of light, but honestly, for the most part, they actually had pretty good faith in Kazuma. After all, he was a Power Ranger, one of the legendary heroes of this world, so he couldn't be all bad. Plus, when they learned that he was actually coming into some money and owned a mansion, well, the next thing they saw were son-in-law dollar signs. And they were more than happy for Kazuma to be around their daughter. In fact, they encouraged him to go even further. However, none more so than Megumin's mother, Yui, who ended up putting everyone in that house to sleep faster than NyQuil, and then ended up locking Kazuma in her daughter's room. Kazuma now finding himself in a situation he didn't really want to be in. Not that Megumin was bad in any way, or that he wouldn't have not liked her, but it was just for the fact that she was kind of crazy. But then again, what was he supposed to do in this situation? I mean, it was all about being fair, right? I mean, it's not his fault that Megumin's crazy mom locked him in here. In the end of the day, if he wanted to stay here, he had more than the right to do so. Ultimately, he decided to lay down his futon and get beside Megumin. Megumin waking up under the same blanket as Kazuma, she was a bit confused at first, wondering why he was here in the first place. That was until Kazuma explained things to her, and everything seemed alright at first. That was until Megumin laid a trap. She teased the idea of the two of them being down to get down, and well, Kazuma, he let his horny boy nature take over. His pants were down faster than a flagpole, and just like that, Megumin had hopped out of the window and she was going off to Yunyun's. And to make matters worse, when everyone heard about what happened the next day, they ended up calling him Scumzuma or Kazu Trash. He didn't like the fact that he had earned all of these nicknames. It really wasn't doing anything for his self-esteem. All the same though, they had to make the most of their time while they were here. Kazuma, accompanied by Aqua and Megumin, would make their way around the village. Megumin going to buy some clothes from her favorite tiller. They would see outside he had something he was using as a clothing line. It was gold and it looked like a rifle. A golden rifle. Why was there a golden rifle? Did he not realize that he was using a gun for clothes? Of course, no one knew about this except for Aqua and Kazuma, and somehow Kazuma had a sneaking suspicion about that gun. But for now, there was nothing that they could really do, so they carried on with their day. From visiting Megumin's old school along with Yunyun, and visiting her old friends and rekindling some old relationships. All the same though, the trouble didn't take too long to find them, as before long, another one of the Devil King's generals, Sylvia, had arrived to the village to attack, along with her would-be goblin army. The Rangers quickly arrived to face Sylvia, and because of their faces being covered, Sylvia had no way of knowing who was who. Kazuma stepping forward as the Green Mystic Ranger, the one that had been rather infamous among Mordekon's armies, primarily with Necroli, the Vampire Queen to say the least, mainly because all she ever did was drown on about how she had been violated by him. Sylvia had now come to have this weird sneaking suspicion about who this hero was, and she asked for what his name might be. She wondered if he could be the legendary hero Mitsurugi, with his sword Graham. You see, Kazuma had obtained for himself a special weapon with his new skills. Being the Green Mystic Ranger, he had command over forestry and other types of plants and domain of that nature, so he had a special sword crafted for him. It was a sword made out of wood, but it took the shape of a katana. And don't be fooled by the material. This wood was a special grade. It was as dense and solid as the strongest of steels, and this was just wood. Of course, Kazuma didn't have a cool name for the sword. In fact, before he could come up with one, Megumin ended up branding it with the name Chunchunmaru. So, no, this was not Graham, and no, he was not Mitsurugi, but she didn't know that, and she didn't need to know that. As far as anyone else was concerned, that's who he was. Of course, the other girls only looked on in more disapproval, knowing that despite Kazuma putting on a brave front, he was too scared to even use his own real name. All the same though, his antics were enough to scare Sylvia and her minions away. So for the most part, everything seemed to be going pretty well. Except for one small problem, and that problem came in the fact that Kazuma ended up finding himself getting stuck in Megumin's room once more. Once again, he found himself being locked in there. Although, to be honest, he wasn't going to try anything. It really didn't even matter at this point. He just chose to go to sleep. Of course, Megumin woke up in a bit of a panic, wondering why Kazuma was in her room once again. Although Kazuma made it very clear that he wasn't that kind of guy. Sure, he liked girls as much as anyone, but if he was really the trash and the scum that people thought he was, wouldn't he have done more than what he already did? Of course, once Megumin thought this over, she then realized that he actually made a pretty good point. Despite what many people said about him, in reality he was actually pretty harmless. She was even able to put that to the test, as she rolled under the sheets and laid on top of him, realizing that in the end of the day he was just as bashful and shy as anyone else, and he didn't live up to the hard exterior that he so often bragged about. But seeing her that way caused Kazuma to start thinking, maybe she really was down to get down. She was pretty cute. After all, things couldn't have been too bad. Was this his popular phase? Is this the moment? Is this the moment, boys? Come on, are we finally going to get a moment here? You know damn well we're not. No, before there could be any magic in the sheets, the alarm would sound off as the Devil King's forces were attacking the village once again. Kazuma, rushing out of the house once more with his sword by his side, would be confronted by Sylvia. Now he was pissed. Sylvia, well, she was kind of scared now by this boy being a raving lunatic, but for Kazuma, he wasn't having it. He was tired. He pulled out his wand and he morphed into his ranger form. He was sick and tired of all of these distractions getting in the way of his popular phase, damn it. He didn't care what it was, man, woman, child, demon. As far as he was concerned, his drop kicks were rated E for everyone, and he believed in gender equality. He was ready to drop kick this bitch back to the next realm. However, as he came rushing towards her, and he tried to launch an attack with his sword, Sylvia caught it rather effectively, and it didn't take her long to realize that the boy, well, maybe he wasn't all he was cracked up to be. She looked down at him. "You're a powerful ranger." "Yeah. But you're not Mitsurugi, are you?" "No, I am not." "And I take it this isn't Graham?" "No, it's Chun Chun Maru." They looked over to see Megumin pointing her staff towards Sylvia. "It's Chun Chun Maru, and you would be wise not to compare it to something like Graham." Megumin took pride in a lot of things, especially the things that she named. A lot of people might not take pride in that sword, but Megumin had pride in that sword. So what if it wasn't as big and long as Graham? So what if it couldn't do all the flashy things Graham could? That sword had something else that Graham could never have. That sword had character. The guy that wielded the sword didn't have a character to save his life, but the sword had character. And the sword should not suffer for the sins of its wielder. Honestly, Kazuma wasn't sure if he should be ecstatic or if he should be offended by those statements. Aqua and Darkness and Yun Yun would arrive soon after, only to see that Kazuma had found himself in a rather precarious situation. He was, well, pretty cozy in between Sylvia's chest, wrapped up in her tentacle arms, his face being covered by a nice large bosom on either side. And for the most part, Kazuma was enjoying himself rather well. Of course, the girls were rather frightened by this, and they were hoping that Kazuma would find a way out. But honestly, Kazuma, he didn't want a way out. He was happy right where he was. At least Sylvia knew how to treat a man, knowing how to take care of him. In fact, feeling like this, he might want to join the Devil King's army. But of course, the others were still trying to convince Kazuma to get out of this hostage situation, to say the least. But ultimately, Kazuma felt as though he were being taken advantage of here. He wanted a popular phase, and damn it, he was going to get it one way or another. Look at Darkness, always flaunting that rockin' body of hers all the time, but yet every time someone was down to get down, she was always shy. Not to mention the fact that everyone always seemed to want to take advantage of his kindness in one way, shape, or form. Ever since he had come to this world, he died 5 times. I thought it was 3 times. Oh no, he died 5 times. And one of those times, he just died on the inside. And there's no cure for something like that. Of course, Sylvia was taken aback by Kazuma's words, to think that someone wanted her in that way. She was more than willing to teach Kazuma more about chimeras. There were a lot of things that he could learn. A lot of things. Like how a chimera, they added a lot to their body. A lot of things, including those breasts that Kazuma loved so much. As she was talking though, Kazuma felt something rubbing against him, something that he didn't think he'd be feeling right now. He looked up to her nervously and asked why there was something grazing him, until Sylvia, she announced that not everything about her was natural. You see, there was something poking Kazuma in his bottom. A flagpole, if you will. And let's just say Kazuma was now scarred 2 times in this journey. 2 times. Well, Kazuma now found himself being taken hostage in the building that was housed to whatever this mage killer weapon was supposed to be. And unfortunately, he had blabbed his open mouth about the fact that he could open the door. So now he was basically doing it for Sylvia. Although, to be honest, this was Kazuma's one moment of brilliance. Once the door opened and Sylvia was about to make her way inside, he kicked her down the entranceway and locked the door behind her. You see, whoever it was that made the mage killer, it was the same dumb idiot that Aqua had sent here all those centuries ago. The same guy that made the Mobile Fortress Destroyer, and the same guy who apparently made the Crimson Demons. The same guy that made a BDSM sex robot mistress. Honestly, Aqua, who do you send to these worlds? But nonetheless, for Kazuma, he believed that the day was saved. As everyone made their way to the factory, now seeing that Sylvia had been trapped, Kazuma believed that their work was done and that they could leave. Of course, however, Sylvia was not easily defeated, as she ended up merging with the weapon. So now they found themselves even more of a predicament than they were before, and the only thing that could kill them was an ancient weapon known as the Gun of Daggeron. But of course, as they read through the prophecy, they had no idea what the Gun of Daggeron even was. Megumin would explain that Daggeron was an ancient warrior of the sun, or the Solaris Knight, if you will. He had many powerful weapons, including a powerful sun gun. As they looked closer at the inscription, they realized that that sun gun was actually the gun that shopkeeper was using for his clothing. After quickly getting a hold of it, and now holding the golden weapon at their arsenal, as Kazuma held it in his hands, a message would start to play. A hologram would appear from the gun itself, revealing that it was none other than a guy named Daggeron. Daggeron was shocked to see that the Mystic Rangers had returned, and he was happy for it. Of course, this was just a holographic recording, mystical, but still just a recording. He explained to them that this gun was made especially to fight against powerful demon forces, and that by just charging it up with mystic energy, it was all that they would need to fire off a shot. Of course, they would need someone to bond with it, and none of them would be able to do so. primarily due to the fact that they were already rangers. So it was going to be up for someone else to stand up and become a ranger themselves. As they all looked around, everyone was chomping at the bit for the opportunity. That was until a tiny hand pressed their fingers on the inscription, bonding with the weapon immediately, as the holographic Daggeron would congratulate them for finding a new successor. Everyone looked around trying to figure out what was going on here, just who the hell had actually merged with the thing, and then they looked down and they saw. It was none other than Komiko, Megumin's young sister. She then began to morph and transform, the small girl turning into a mini Solaris Knight. Kazuma couldn't help but shake his head. Of all the people, you know what? It doesn't even matter. They just had to win this battle. They were actually able to contact Wiz and Vanir about what was going on, stating that they were going to need their help in this fight. They would arrive to the village as they were also on a business trip, but thankfully they could deal with this also. Wiz would move over to Komiko, congratulating her on becoming a new ranger. She was surprised to learn that the gun of Daggeron had been here this whole time. She had been searching for it for a while now. Vanir was surprised as well. He hadn't heard the name Daggeron in a long time. It brought back a lot of great memories. But now they had a new little ranger on their hands, and they had to deal with Sylvia in one way, shape, or form. Both Wiz and Megumin, along with Yun, would each give off a strong discharge of magical energy into the ray gun. As they used it to blast a hole inside of Sylvia, she ended up being killed rather effectively, and it seemed as though their victory was assured. As Sylvia's spirit had made its way to the borders of the afterlife, she found herself being confronted by Verdia, along with Hans as well. Learning of the fact that they had also been defeated by the Rangers and that they too wanted revenge, they pulled their magical powers together, a dying Sylvia fusing them and allowing them to revive once again as a giant monster. Now back into the world of the living, all the Rangers now found themselves in a situation that they'd rather not have wanted to been in, fighting against a triple fused demon general monster. It was going to take all of their powers if they were going to win this fight. Kazuma, Aqua, Darkness, Megumin, and Yun would summon their Zords to create the Mystic Megazord. Vanir would morph into the Wolf Knight, along with Wiz morphing into her White Ranger form. Vanir would use his growing magic to increase his size, while also Wiz would summon the White Unicorn, the two of them combining to form the unified Korag Knight Megazord. And then finally there was Komiko. Komiko was still new to all of this, and there wasn't really much that she could do at the moment, so she was just for the ride-along with the other 5 Rangers. As the two Zords stood together side by side, they would engage against Sylvia in battle. The people of the village, the other Crimson Demons, used their various forms of magic to assist them in one way or another. As they battled against the mutated beast, Wiz would point out that they were going to have to find a weak spot, a point in which they could exploit and use to their fullest extent to destroy the monster once and for all. Of course, the only way to find the weak spot was going to be if they created one. And for Kazuma, he knew that his time had come. As Kazuma left the Zord, Komiko would take his place. He knew what he needed to do. He wasn't too proud of it, but honestly, with great power comes great something. I don't know. There's some other guy in some story who knows the saying better than I do. Anyway, Kazuma would approach Sylvia once again, wanting to join with her and combine once more. To be honest, Sylvia had given up her heart once. It had been broken. but she still couldn't deny the feelings that she had for Kazuma. She reached out for the Green Ranger, who allowed himself to merge with her. Kazuma, he decided to go all in. His feelings, everything. It was all or nothing now. He had found himself in the center of Sylvia's chest, and now he was the weak point. This gave everyone a spot to attack, and working together all at once, they would take their shot. Sylvia would soon realize she had been tricked. But honestly, if it meant to perish with the one she loved, she was fine with it. As for Kazuma, it hurt. It hurt like hell. Even if he was in a ranger state, he got stabbed through the chest by a powerful attack from the Megazord. Yeah, he didn't survive that at all. Though, thankfully, with Aqua's healing abilities and with the goddess Eris being kind enough to allow him to revive, he found himself returning back into the world once again. After saying their goodbyes, the group would make their way back home to Axel, along with a new comrade, Komiko. Of course, under normal circumstances, Megumin wouldn't have wanted her little sister to come along, but the girl was a ranger now. Her parents, well, they were proud. The fact that they had 2 children become Power Rangers of all things, well, that was something they could hold their heads up with pride. Of course, the girl was going to need a lot of training, and Wiz decided that she would take the young girl under her wing. After all, if anyone was going to train her, it should be Wiz. As they were making their way back though, Megumin, she had been thinking about a lot of things. She had gained a lot of experience points after their last fight, and well, she wanted to be more useful as a mage. If the battles had taught her anything, it was that she couldn't just rely on explosion forever. Kazuma understood what she meant, but at the same time, he couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Explosion was what she was best at. It was what she gave her all into. Even if it was just her one skill, she was the best at that one skill. And because of that, he believed that something like that shouldn't be taken away. Kazuma filled out her experience card, and he allowed her to make one final explosion, for old time's sake. Megumin would morph into her Red Ranger form. She was preparing for a final explosion, what she believed would be her farewell, as she thought it was going to be taken away from her. However, to her surprise, when she let off the powerful attack, an attack that seemed to reach the skies and to the heavens themselves, an explosion that was the epitome of all of her hard work, a blazing fire that showed her spirit, that left the impression of a heart that formed high above them. Megumin couldn't help but be overcome with emotions of joy and of happiness. Aqua, Darkness, and Yun would approach them also, as Megumin demorphed, feeling as though she had used up almost all of her power. Being carried on the shoulders by Kazuma, they were going to make their way to enjoying a picnic. Yes, today was going to be an easy day. Today was going to be a simple day. Today, they were just going to relax. There wasn't going to be any worries or any shenanigans or why is there a portal opening in front of them? And why is Megumin jittery? Megumin wasn't sure of what was happening right now, but she could feel a strong emotion washing over her. The feeling of pain and of loss. She wasn't sure why, but she knew she was needed on the other side of that portal. Kazuma could see that look in her eyes. No. We are not doing this. We just got out of some crazy mess not too long ago. We are not going back. Megumin, no, don't you dare! and before he could finish his sentence, the girl, who was seemingly out of all magical energy, somehow found the strength to hop through that damn portal. And well, Darkness, not wanting to miss an opportunity, found herself following behind Megumin. Then Yun, not wanting to lose her rival, she followed not too long after either. That left only Kazuma and Aqua. Aqua knew what was about to happen here, and she slowly backed away. She knew that someone should stay back and watch the mansion. You know, we can't all go. I mean, Kazuma, why are you grabbing me by the collar? No, Kazuma, come on. No, I am a goddess, damn it. I am not supposed to be dragged into it. No, Kazuma, don't you dare. And before they knew it, all 5 of the Mystic Rangers had gone through the portal. As they arrived on the other side, they saw chaos and destruction reigning everywhere they went, cannonballs firing in every direction, bloodshed being spilled all across a major battlefield. They were standing on a large pool of ice. They had no idea what was going on. There were giants, there were monsters, a guy flying around with blue flames, some large muscular guy with a mustache shaking the very ground they were on. There was a guy fighting with 3 swords, a girl fighting with a staff that could create weather, some other woman that could make multiple arms, some long-nosed guy with a slingshot, a talking reindeer, or no, a humanoid reindeer. Wait, why is that guy just bones? Can't he feel anything? Well, he probably could feel something if he wasn't all bones. Yo! And some guy in a Speedo. As Kazuma and everyone else looked around, they were trying to figure out what was going on. But Megumin, she looked forward as she pointed to a young man running amongst all the chaos, with a straw hat tied on top of his neck as he was making his way to save his brother. You see, Kazuma and his friends, they unfortunately found themselves somewhere they never thought they would be. Because as of now, the Mystic Rangers had joined the fight. But they were not alone. They were joined by other heroes as well. Heroes that you have come to know over the course of this channel's history. Shinji Ikari and his friends, the Zeo Rangers. Izuku Midoriya and his friends, the Mighty Morphin Rangers. Naruto Uzumaki and his allies, the Ninja Storm Rangers. Shinra Kusakabe and his friends, the Lightspeed Rangers. All of them had gathered together in this one location. Above all else, the first goal was to aid their fellow Rangers in need. His name was Monkey D. Luffy. And this, my friends, is the Battle of Marine Ford. This concludes Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune, the movie Legend of Crimson. As always, if you're a fan of today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that's to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's slate of videos, as that will also be a double video day, as we will be wrapping up What If Captain America Was in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Dio's Revenge, Part 5 and Part 6. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.